There is an agreement that exists among a very specific group of American drivers. It is not spoken. It does not need to be. It is simply understood by everyone who has ever driven a Japanese car, or lived next to someone who drives one, or watched one refuse to die at 200,000 miles while everything around it slowly disintegrated. The agreement is this: Japanese cars are correct, not exciting, not dramatic. Not the kind of thing you talk about at parties unless the party is very boring. Just correct. And the people who drive them know this. They know it with varying degrees of self-awareness and varying degrees of insufferability. And today we are going to decode every single one of them. The Toyota Camry. The Toyota Camry has been one of the best-selling cars in America for so long that calling it the best-selling car at this point feels like calling gravity a popular choice. It simply is. It has been for decades. And the person who drives one does not think of themselves as having made a car purchasing decision. They think of themselves as having done something more fundamental, something closer to answering a math problem correctly. The answer to "what car should I buy" exists. It is the Camry. Case closed. The Camry owner does not have a story about their Camry. This is the most important thing to understand about them. Every other person on this list has a story. The Civic owner has a story about the first time they really pushed it on an empty road and were surprised. The Subaru owner has 3 stories and a sticker collection. The Altima owner has a story that is different from what they think the story is. The Camry owner has nothing. Not because nothing happened. Because nothing needs to happen. The Camry starts. The Camry runs. The Camry continues to run. This is the story. It is complete. The Camry owner chose reliability as a value system and then fully committed to it. They do not wonder if they made the right choice. The question does not arise, not because they are incurious, because the question has already been answered by 30 years of production data and they read it. They are done. They are driving. There is a specific calm that comes with owning a Toyota Camry. It is not the calm of satisfaction or the calm of contentment. It is the calm of a person who has solved a problem that other people insist on treating as complicated. The Camry owner watches other people agonize over car purchases with the patience of someone watching a friend struggle with a math problem whose answer they already know. They do not say anything. They have the Camry. They are already home, the Toyota Corolla. If the Camry is the correct answer, then the Corolla is the correct answer for someone who has completely stopped pretending the question is about anything other than transportation. The Camry owner made a considered decision. The Corolla owner made a final one. They looked at the car market, identified what a car is for, concluded that getting from one place to another reliably and economically is the only actual function involved, and bought the Corolla. The logic is airtight. The ego requirement is 0. This is the most honest car purchase on this entire list. The Corolla owner does not care about your opinion of their car. Not in the defensive way, where not caring is actually caring very much, in the actual way. The Corolla starts. The Corolla runs. The gas costs less than whatever you are driving. The insurance costs less. The maintenance costs less. In 40 years, the Corolla will still be in a parking lot somewhere running fine, and you will still be explaining why your car was actually the smarter purchase. The Corolla owner will not be listening because they are already at the next destination. There is something almost meditative about the Corolla owner's relationship with transportation. They have separated the car from any identity function and left it with only its actual function. This is either the most psychologically advanced position on this list or the most boring, depending entirely on your own relationship with cars. The Corolla owner suspects it is both and does not find this troubling. The Honda Civic. Now we get to something different. The Honda Civic is the only car on this list that was supposed to be transportation and became something else entirely without anyone planning for it. Nobody at Honda in the 1970s sat down and designed a future identity vehicle. They designed a practical, affordable, reliable small car for people who needed a practical, affordable, reliable small car. And then something happened. The Civic turned out to be light and well-balanced, and surprisingly capable of being modified into something that handles in a way that a car costing 3 times as much would be embarrassed by. And a community formed around this. And the community became a culture. And the culture became an identity. And now the Civic is the most modified car in America, and the person who buys one base model at 22 and has a completely stock Civic 3 years later is the exception, not the rule. The Civic owner exists in two distinct categories, and they are important to separate. There is the Civic owner who bought it because it was practical and reliable and discovered to their own surprise that they actually love driving it. This person is interesting and their relationship with the car is genuine. Then there is the Civic owner who bought it specifically to modify it and is on their third set of aftermarket wheels and has opinions about suspension geometry that they will share at length. This person is also interesting, but in a completely different way. What both of them share is the discovery that you can have a car that starts every time and also makes you feel something when you drive it. This is not the Camry promise. The Camry promise is reliability. The Civic promise, for the people who discovered it, is reliability and something else. The something else is what the community is about. The something else is what the sticker on the back of every third Civic means. It is a small secret. It is not that secret anymore. But it still feels like one. The Honda Accord. The Accord owner did the same research as the Civic owner and arrived at the same conclusion about Honda, and then looked at the Civic and thought, correct brand, slightly more car please. They are not wrong. The Accord is a genuinely excellent vehicle by any reasonable metric. It is comfortable. It is capable. It is reliable in the Honda way, which is subtly different from the Toyota way but arrives at the same destination from a different direction. The Toyota way is, we built it to last, and here is the proof in the data. The Honda way is, we built it to work, and here is the proof that it works. The Accord owner is specifically the person who made a practical decision and wants some recognition that it was also a tasteful one. The Camry owner does not need you to think their car is tasteful. The Accord owner would prefer it, not urgently, but it would be noted and appreciated. The Accord has a presence that the Camry deliberately avoids. The Accord owner chose the Honda that announces itself just slightly, just enough, without being a performance car or a status car. It is the Japanese car for the person who solved the practical problem and still left a small amount of room for the idea that cars can be about more than that. The Accord owner and the Camry owner eye each other in parking lots with mutual respect and a very small amount of mutual suspicion. They made the same basic decision with slightly different values applied. Neither will ever fully admit the other made the correct choice. Both of them are right. Before we continue, did you know that studies show that people who support independent creators are statistically more likely to own a Honda? Because apparently, good judgment is consistent across all life decisions. If that's you, the link is below. In the pinned comment, the Altima owners can keep scrolling. The Mazda 3 and the Mazda CX-5. The Mazda owner is the most interesting person on this list, and they know it, and this is both their best quality and their most significant flaw. Mazda makes genuinely beautiful cars. This is not subjective. Their design language called Kodo, which means soul of motion, produces cars that look like they are moving when they are standing still. The CX-5 is legitimately one of the best-looking SUVs at any price point. The Mazda 3 has an interior that embarrasses cars costing twice as much. These are real things. The Mazda owner did not invent them. What the Mazda owner did invent is the mild sense of superiority that comes with knowing these things while believing that other people do not know them. The Mazda owner chose the understated option, the thoughtful option, the one that rewards attention rather than demands it. They are not driving a Lexus that announces its price. They are driving a Mazda that rewards the person who notices. This distinction is important to them, very important. Possibly slightly too important. There is a specific conversation that every Mazda owner has at least twice a year. Someone gets in their car and says, "This is really nice. What is it?" The Mazda owner says, "It is a Mazda." The other person says, "Really?" And the Mazda owner nods with an expression that contains approximately 30% more satisfaction than the situation technically requires. This moment is a significant part of why they bought the car. They will never say this. It is still true. The Mazda owner chose the Japanese car that drives the best among this group and genuinely cares about the driving experience in a way that Toyota and Honda owners politely do not. They are correct that Mazda makes better drivers' cars. They are slightly exhausting about it. Both of these things can be true. The Subaru Outback and the Subaru Forester. The Subaru is not a car. It is a lifestyle announcement. The car comes with the announcement. The announcement is, I am the kind of person who values experiences over things, the outdoors over the indoors, dogs over most people, and practicality, with just enough personality to feel chosen rather than settled for. The car is the physical object through which this announcement is made. Now, here is the thing. All of this is fine. The Subaru is a genuinely excellent vehicle for the life its owners claim to lead. The all-wheel drive is real, the ground clearance is real, the cargo capacity for outdoor gear is real. If you actually hike and camp and drive dirt roads and have a large dog, the Subaru is one of the most rational purchases on this list. The problem is that you do not need to actually hike and camp and drive dirt roads and have a large dog to buy the Subaru. You need to want to be the person who does those things. And many Subaru owners are that second kind of person. This is not a criticism. This is simply an observation about how identity works. We buy the car that matches the person we are or the person we intend to be. The Subaru owner intends to be a person who makes the most of the outdoors, values community, has strong opinions about locally sourced coffee, and never takes the car in for an oil change without also scheduling a hike for the weekend. Some of them fully execute on this intention. Some of them have a car that smells like a dog and a bumper sticker about national parks and have been to a national park twice. Both groups bought the same car. The car does not judge. The Subaru community is the most aggressively tribal community in Japanese car ownership. The Jeep Wave is for amateurs. Subaru owners have an entire culture with its own handshakes, its own rallying points, its own demographic that is so specific and consistent across America that if you see a Subaru Outback in a parking lot, you can predict with remarkable accuracy approximately 5 things about the person who owns it before they return to the car. This is either charming or slightly eerie, and the Subaru community has decided it is charming, and they are probably right. The Nissan Altima, we have arrived. The Nissan Altima is the most fascinating vehicle on this entire list, not because of what it is, but because of what it does to the people who drive it. The Altima is a perfectly reasonable mid-size sedan. It is not special. It is not particularly distinguished. It does the things a car is supposed to do with no extraordinary characteristics in any direction. In a just world, it would be as forgettable as the Sentra. But we do not live in a just world. We live in a world where the Nissan Altima has become the most memed car in America, and the people who drive it have become a cultural archetype so specific and so recognized that the phrase Altima driver communicates a complete psychological profile to everyone who hears it. The Altima driver, as understood by American car culture, is someone who drives with a specific kind of confidence that has no observable relationship to their actual situation. They change lanes without signaling, they follow too closely. They are in every lane simultaneously on the highway and somehow also specifically in your lane. They treat every yellow light as a philosophical position and every red light as a suggestion from a system they have decided does not fully apply to them. They drive as if they own the road in the specific way that only people who feel they do not own enough things drive. And here is the part that nobody says clearly enough. None of this is actually the car's fault. The Altima did not create this. The Altima is just a car. What happened is that a specific demographic in a specific moment in American economic history made the Altima their car of choice and brought their specific energy with them, and the car absorbed it, and now the car and the energy are inseparable in the American imagination. The Altima is haunted, not by ghosts, by the accumulated reputation of every person who has ever driven one with the volume turned up too loud at a stoplight. The actual Altima owner, the real person who bought one and is not a meme but a human being, is often just someone who needed a car, found a reasonable deal on an Altima, and has now discovered that mentioning their car in casual conversation produces a reaction they did not anticipate. This person deserves our compassion. They also deserve the raised eyebrow they get when they say it. Both of these things are true simultaneously. The Nissan Sentra. The Sentra owner bought a car, and that is the most that can be said about it. They needed transportation. The Sentra was available. The Sentra was affordable. The Sentra will be forgotten before they finish paying it off, including by themselves. This is not an insult. It is a description of a vehicle whose entire design philosophy could be summarized as meets requirements. The Sentra owner met their requirements. They are on their way somewhere. They will arrive. The car will start tomorrow. There is a version of this that is the most honest and uncomplicated relationship with a vehicle that exists on this list, and the Sentra owner is living it whether they know it or not. Here is what all 8 of these cars have in common. They will be running when other cars have given up. They will start in weather that has defeated vehicles from other continents. They will require less maintenance and cost less to maintain and produce fewer hours of genuine mechanical anxiety than almost anything else available at comparable price points. The people who drive them made a decision, at some point, to let reliability be the primary value in at least this one area of their life. And they were right. What they chose on top of that reliability is what separates them. The Camry owner chose to let the car disappear into the background. The Corolla owner went further. The Civic owner discovered something they did not expect. The Accord owner left just enough room for taste. The Mazda owner made taste the whole argument. The Subaru owner bought a car and an identity and has been living both fully ever since. The Altima owner drives however they want, and the car will keep starting regardless of what anyone thinks about it. The Sentra owner simply needed a car and has one. Every single one of them made the right decision. They are just right about different things. And every single one of them will still be driving their car when the people who chose based on different criteria are explaining to someone why their car is actually more reliable than its reputation suggests. Drop it in the black comments. Which one are you? And if you have never owned one, which one would you be? You already know the answer. It tells you something about yourself that you may or may not be ready to hear.